Hey there boys, today we're going to be looking at the Undercurrent. This is a new Waveframe grenade launcher available from the Nightfall this week. I was fortunate enough to farm out a god roll pretty early. I actually got it on my second run of the GM, and I even managed to get double good perks, so a super lucky drop here, and I'm really happy to be making a video on it today. I do need to cover one thing before we start though. When the season first dropped, I made a video talking about all of the new weapons. I went through them in D2 Foundry, but we didn't really have access to them yet, but now we do. And I kind of poo-pooed on this weapon. I didn't think it was going to be as good as Forbearance, but one thing I did notice is that it had Demolitionist and also Lead for Gold, which are two perks that are pretty good on grenade launchers, but that weren't available on Forbearance. And they are available on this one along with Volt Shot. Now, to be entirely honest, I don't think Volt Shot is as good as Chain Reaction in its killing power. However, it does have the added benefit of taking out overloads in the area, so if you cleared a bunch of ads with Volt Shot, it will stun any overloads near them. And the radius for Volt Shot is very big. It's definitely larger than Chain Reaction, and it will get ads that are more spread out, better than Forbearance would. That being said, the only real downside is that Volt Shot isn't always active, mainly on the first shot when you'd want it to be active. It's not active, you have to get it in sort of a follow-up shot, so I would really use this thing in encounters that have more spread out ads that aren't just all completely stacked up on top of each other, which is more common than you might think. However, still, I think the biggest selling point on this is going to be the Demolitionist in the third column pick paired with Volt Shot. It actually makes for some great synergy. You get a ton of grenades back on builds that do not really have access to grenade regen, and you can kind of fix builds that don't have good grenade regen by using this thing because you'll get a ton of kills with it being a Waveframe, especially one with Volt Shot. And Volt Shot does of course proc exactly how you think it would. As long as you get a kill, you just reload the gun and you get it back, and you basically have Volt Shot on every shot during a fight as long as you're killing something with each shot. I know that a lot of people were excited to get Ambitious Assassin with Volt Shot on this Waveframe, however I actually don't think that's going to be a very good pick, simply because whenever you have two shots in the mag, only the first one is going to be applying Volt Shot, so you're basically just getting an unbuffed wave from the second shot with every single time you're getting a kill, and they sort of just work against each other. It would be similar to using something like Subsistence with Kill Clip, where you just aren't reloading, so there's no real reason to do it. Another pick that interests me is going to be Attrition Orbs actually. I think that this might be pretty good on a Waveframe specifically, despite not being good on most other weapon types, because they largely rely on having both reload and damage perks. However, a Waveframe kind of has space to just have a utility perk. So if we read out what Attrition Orbs does, we can see that it triggers based on hitting an amount of shots, and that amount of shots differs based on which weapon you're using. However, that is only for a select few weapons, and for the remaining ones, including grenade launchers, it requires you to use 67% of your magazine and hit at least 2 shots. So in theory, the grenade launcher of course is using 100% of its mag on every shot, and of course if you hit 2 enemies with it, then that would meet the condition said there to spawn an orb, which would pretty much be the fastest way to spawn an orb using Attrition Orbs yet, literally just shooting 1 grenade launcher shot at 2 enemies. Now I haven't actually gotten the Attrition Orbs roll to drop yet, but I'll definitely be going for it to try it out. However, if any of you guys watching the video have actually already gotten that roll, go ahead and give it a go and let me know in the comments what you found using it. Another thing to look at is actually the origin traits of this weapon. So if we look at the origin trait on Forbearance, it is a healing perk. It gives you health based on the amount of hits that you got, and it scales very well because it is a 1 mag gun and it is based on the magazine size of the weapon used. And similarly, we actually have a healing perk with the Vanguard perks here as well. If we have a look at Vanguard's Vindication, we can see that it heals 7 points of health for every enemy killed, and that's really not a lot for almost any other weapon type, but Waveframes actually get such a large volume of kills a lot of the time that I really think this will actually be impactful. According to D2 Foundry, the Soul Drinker perk found on Forbearance will give back between 20 and 80 health, and of course being 7 health per enemy killed, in theory this has no real limit, and I don't believe it has a cooldown, so you could actually even get more health than that, although it would require a lot of kills. That being said, the other choice for the origin trait isn't bad either. Whenever you stun a champion, you'll get back 25% of your magazine, and this always rounds up, so it will just refill your magazine. You'll also get 60 health back instantly and begin your health regen, which is really great if you don't have 100 recovery. And at first glance, that may sound a little bit silly because you don't think you'd really be using this weapon on champions, but you'd be surprised how often you can just accidentally stun an overload in a group of enemies just by hitting them with a Volt Shot. Remember, you don't even have to hit the overload champion with the shot. If you hit an ad nearby and it chains to the overload, that will stun him as well. And that's pretty much all the information on the new Waveframe that we really need to know. So we're going to have a look at some of the other older Waveframes and compare them to this one and see how they stack up. But really quickly before we do that, I do want to thank everybody who's been watching the video. We've been getting a ton of support lately. We got over 1,000 subscribers pretty recently, and that means the world to me. If you guys are really liking the video and you do want to make me happy, leave a comment below. It's my absolute favorite thing to do. I get a notification on my phone every time somebody sends a comment, so I will read it for sure. And it's one of my favorite things to do. But yeah, let's get back into the video, and we're going to look at some of the other Waveframes now. And we've already compared this one to Forbearance plenty, so we're going to be skipping that one, starting off with New Pacific Epitaph. So New Pacific Epitaph is actually pretty similar, although it's in the kinetic slot, so it automatically gets points for being the only choice in that slot. The New Pacific Epitaph is pretty much either lead for gold or demo, so the same as this one in the third tree, and then having misdirection in the final tree. Misdirection is kind of just coping, but again, this thing is mostly good just because it's in the kinetic slot. After that, we have Harsh Language. However, it doesn't have a good reload perk in the third column, so I'm pretty much just going to ignore that one. It does get Envious Assassin, but you shouldn't be using a Waveframe mixed with another ag clearing weapon, so I don't really know how you're going to end up getting real use out of Envious Assassin. So this leaves us with Explosive Personality next. Explosive Personality is actually pretty unique because it has access to auto-loading holster mixed with unrelenting, so it's sort of a weapon you pull out, kill a bunch of ads with, and get all of your health back using it quickly, which is a pretty cool utility use. It also has access to Genesis, which is pretty good on Waveframes because you can go pop a ton of shields very easily. It'll one-shot most shields at any difficulty, and you'll just get your shot back whenever you do that. So for a few very niche encounters, you'll actually find people using Genesis Waveframes for ag clearing. This is mainly done in like Garden and some encounters that have like a ton of shielded enemies, but it's pretty uncommon overall, but I thought it was worth mentioning. And finally, we have the oldest Waveframe that you can still get, and that's going to be the Deafening Whisper. I actually still have an arguable god roll from back when this thing was available, and I still use it to this day as the Void Waveframe of my choice, just because I think it's way better than Deafening Whisper. So this one is definitely a bit of an oddball, but it has a number of really good perk combinations, including actually having auto-loading holster in the wrong column being in the fourth column, which allows it to mix with lead for gold, which is actually a pretty nice combo. That said, it also has Unrelenting in the fourth tree, similar to Explosive Personality. However, you don't get to mix that with auto-loading holster, but you could mix it with Ambitious Assassin in the third column. And on my roll, I got Ambitious Assassin and Wellspring, which I actually really like for a Waveframe specifically, although normally Wellspring is not a great perk. You get so many kills that it's actually kind of noticeable. Oh yeah, and we also have Dimensional Hypotrochoid. And it's pretty much just like all the other Waveframes, but it uses heavy ammo, so that's something, I guess. Yeah, you probably shouldn't really be using this anywhere. It did actually have a pretty fun run being useful on Riven DPS because you could just get it like stuck in your arm and it would do a bunch of like physics damage, but that actually got patched last season, so it's no longer really a choice for anything. And this is pretty much just a joke grenade launcher. It actually does kind of okay DPS, but it's just not any better for any reason to use over any of the regular grenade launchers in the heavy slot. And that's going to wrap up the video. If you made it to the end, I wanted to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. It means the world to me. And leave a comment below with your thoughts. What do you think about this grenade launcher? Do you think it's going to overtake Forbearance, or do you think it's just going to be another Waveframe that falls below it?